So anyhow, but you mentioned something about ancient therapies. And so you're saying that ketogenic diet is actually ancient.
Yeah, and intermittent fasting. They're both ancient healing strategies, or ancient therapies is a good term as well. They have both been around since humans have existed. There's nothing new about keto. Yeah, it's trending now, and the keto diet, and people say, oh, it's a fad, it's a weight loss fad, but that's not accurate. Keto is not a fad, it's a fact. It's a metabolic process that every single one of our ancestors went through. And how do I know that? Yeah. Because our ancestors didn't have food readily available to them. So they were forced to intermittent fast. Sometimes it was an intermittent fast, sometimes it was a 3-day fast. And what happens when you fast? Well, you drop glucose and insulin, and your brain needs some sort of energy. Your cells need another sort of form of energy. So that's where ketones are produced. The body starts mobilizing fat stores and fatty acids, which is then shuttled to your liver. Your liver starts burning that, and then it produces ketones, which fuels the brain. It fuels the mitochondria. So there's nothing new about it. It's been around for a long time. It's just nuanced. So yeah, that's an ancient healing strategy that if we use could be super powerful for our cells.
Yeah. So how do you think, how did this ketogenic diet fad come about? Where did it come from?
Well, kind of Dr. Atkins was kind of like maybe the leader in the 1980s with the Atkins diet, but it was kind of keto, but he didn't really focus on the quality of fats. It was a little bit high in protein, but there were some keto components to it. And he got results. A lot of people did like the South Beach diet and different Atkins diets. And then in the early 2000s, I shouldn't say 2012 or so, people started to experiment with a very high fat, low carbohydrate diet to get into ketosis. And people started to lose a lot of weight and get off of their insulin medication and blood sugar reducing medication. And then it really just took off to the point where it became one of the top search terms on Dr. Google, which was the ketogenic diet. And now it's very popular. It's mainstream. And it's mainstream because when you go to the supermarket, there's keto approved products and keto bars and keto bread. So when you see that happen in your supermarket, like it did with paleo, it's mainstream, but there's really nothing new about it. It's one tool. It's not the only tool. I don't believe in like staying in ketosis forever, but I do believe in tapping into it and going in and out, which is what I call keto flexing. And that's metabolic flexibility.
Right. I think the first time I really heard about it was in the context of epilepsy. So a lot of kids suffer from epilepsy. And then a doctor realized that when he put these kids on a keto diet, in some kind of ketosis, and their epilepsy was going away. And so that was still limited for, only for these kids, only for these medical conditions. But then it became like an anti-aging, kind of strategy. So what have you seen? Do you give consultations to patients as well, right?
Yeah. So just to your point, in the 1920s is when they discovered ketogenic as a diet to apply to children with epilepsy. They started to give them a ketogenic diet. Their seizures went away, and then they developed the medication, and they forgot about the nutrition part because you're like, we got a medication for this. But even before that, Joy, in the ancient Romans, a long time ago, ancient Romans accidentally discovered the power of ketones. You see, back then, when individuals would have seizures, epileptic seizures back then, they had no idea what a seizure was. What they thought was that these individuals were actually being possessed by the devil. They thought it was the demons that are being expressed through seizures. And what they did, they would take these individuals and lock them into a room, isolate them, no food, no water. So they forced them to fast, which generated ketones. And then they would come back a few hours later and their seizures would be gone. The demons would be gone. But it was the ketones that we now know were helping with the seizures. So there's nothing new about it. And then to answer your question, yeah, so I do one-on-one coaching, but I primarily do my Keto Kamp Academy, where I have thousands and thousands of students who go through my pillars. And yeah, we look at lab work, we look at what's working. And I can tell you that so many of these students who have gone into the program on their insulin, their metformin, their high blood pressure medication, have gotten off of it. They've been able to drop A1Cs from over 11 or 8 down to 5.1, 5.2. And it's been such an amazing journey to see that. And it works. It works when you do it the right way.